guys, and welcome to Forward to the Past. In this episode I'm going to be exploring the Brighton Toy Museum, but to get there I'm going to be taking my world famous Peel P50. My Peel P50 is going on display at the Brighton Toy Museum for this summer. So if you want to see it in person, come on down to the museum and see it with your own eyes. So here's a nice first person view of getting in the Peel P50. First thing, get my right knee past the bottom of the steering wheel and I kind of slide in sideways like a crab. And here's my driving position. So the Peel P50 is famously cramped, and you might be able to hear my voice is very echoey in here, and that is also reflected when the engine is running. Now the camera won't really demonstrate this very well, but it's very loud when the engine's running. So what I do when I'm driving anywhere far, I put on my ear defenders. Just like Blackpool Tower all over again. Well, here we are, and I'd like to introduce you to Jan, the general manager here at the museum. Thank you ever so much for having us here. This is a really wonderful place, a very special place. Could you tell us what makes this museum so special?
Hi Alex, yes absolutely. First of all, we are so excited to have your special little car in the museum. It's like a little Tykes car but made for grown-ups. They can drive it around.
Absolutely.
So the museum is a registered charity. We've actually been here since 1991 and we are entirely dependent on the people that you're going to bring in for us and our wonderful front of house volunteers to help keep the museum open. It's very special because the collection covers what's known as the golden age of toy making. So the late 1800s through to the 1950s, a time when there was a human element in the manufacturing of toys, largely pre-plastic.
Fantastic. Now, you've been very kind to let me bring my Peel P50 into this building, but what I'd really like to do, if it's all right, is not just drive it into the building, I'd like to drive it around. Do you reckon we could do that?
Oh, I think that's a fabulous idea, Alex. Let's do it.
Great. There is one problem. There is a flight of stairs. But if anyone remembers when we took this up Blackpool Tower, we've done stairs before. So are you feeling strong?
I'll give it a go.
Let's do it. Drop down. Museum is small, but it is packed. It is absolutely full. You could spend all day looking around here. My eyes are just all over the place. So I'm going to see what we have. Now I have come on a day here at the museum. I'm very privileged to meet this gentleman here, Chris. Lovely to meet you. And you are the founder of this museum, are you not?
Yes, indeed. I started it 33 years ago, actually, and I've been collecting toy and model trains since I was knee-high, as a wee boy, and I've always been excited by toy and model trains, and other things as well, but I did it since that age, and had a collection in my flat which was so enormous. I had a girlfriend, a French lady, and she got out of bed once and she stabbed her toe on a Hornby signal box or whatever.
Was the train okay?
This was my big worry, you know, because I wasn't very popular having these things under there, and of course we talked about putting these things into a gallery or museum. So we looked all around the area, Brighton, over towards Lewis and everywhere, looking for a museum for this kind of thing, and eventually found a notice outside here, British Rail Property Board, premise to let. I thought, bingo, this is it. And we got the keys and we spoke to a very strange little man at Waterloo Station who said, I hope this is going to make a lot of money. I said, it will make a fortune. He said, oh, and he said, that's so good, I'm pleased about that. And so we got the keys. This place was a wreck. It was in a, you cannot believe the state this place was in. And no flooring like this, it was all rough flooring.
So what was it?
Well, it was a photographic studios which they cobbled sets into, so it was all boarded over in areas.
Right.
But once they took all that out, it was appalling. But it used to be Bass Charrington's beer stores. The wretched people never left us even one bag.
Oh dear.
I know,
Typical,
that was not good, that was not clever.
That would be a real vintage, wouldn't it?
It would. However, with the help of so many people, we formed a trust, charitable trust. We got together, we got a wonderful team of people, and virtually just made this place what you see now. And over a long period, it took a long time. We had no money to start with. It was a wing and a prayer, I tell you. And then lots of friends muscled in. We got the hanging aircraft to put up and all sorts of. I started putting all the trains out. We built the big layout you see here, and it literally blossomed and it got better and better. And then we had people to help us financially. One person in particular who was sort of like a breath of life to us. He keeps us going. But the place is so special, and what you have here is such a broad church of everything, from the trains, the beautiful dollhouse furniture, cars till they come out of your ears, including a big one. Well, we call it a big one. I think most people call it a very small one.
Once it's out of the museum, it becomes the smallest one, but it's the biggest car in the museum.
In the museum. and it's just so lovely to have that here, to be honest.
So you mentioned that you started this off with your own collection.
Yes.
So I'm guessing a substantial amount of the collection here is actually your own property.
Pretty much everything you're looking at now was at my home, and I collected. Collecting is a disease.
I know.
Yes, it's a disease.
Yeah, I know.
And you can't stop yourself.
Yeah.
Even sometimes, when I was quite young, I didn't have the money. I'd still go and say, "Oh yes, I'll buy that." And I didn't know how the hell I was going to get
I've never done that. Never.
No.
Not once.
But I managed to find the money.
Yeah.
I'd either borrow it off some good friend,
Make it work.
Make it work. Yes.
So, is there any item in this entire museum that belongs to you that is of particular interest, or something that's very special to you that we can have a look at?
There are several special things, very special things. So if I do a little bit of cherry picking and look, I really think you ought to see my father's model of the hospital ship that he built.
Let's have a look. So Chris, in this cabinet here, we've got a large variety of boats and ships. Which is the one your father built?
Right, my dear old daddy, he lived to 95, 96, and he was compos mentis to the end, but during the last war, I'm talking 1939 to 1945, he was a medical officer on board a hospital ship in the Mediterranean, and he built this model of his ship while on board. I think there was a year when he had to finish it back at home, but this model is exquisite, and when you look in close detail, there is everything, and you actually wonder how anybody could make such a thing. It is exceptional. He was a lovely old man. When my daddy used to come in, the first thing he used to do is say, "Where is my old ship?" And we used to come along and say, "There we are." Look at it, and there's a big smile on his face, and that is why that is so special to me.
I guess the ship itself meant a great deal to him if he was to take the time to build something that beautiful and intricate.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
that beautiful?
Yeah, all metal sculpture. I mean, just look at this. Look, have a look at a chair. Just feel it. It's all metal, but it looks so in scale because they can get the thickness down.
And the way they painted.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole way they've done it.
It's got the wood grain on it, hasn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is approximately 1870s. Yeah. It's made in Germany.
Quite large scale, isn't it?
It is. You're right. It's what they call 8th scale.
Ah.
This is also nice.
Oh my gosh, that looks like a marble effect.
Yeah, it's wood with paper on it. It's also this.
Oh, lovely! Wow.
I mean, look at this. For instance.
That's the thing I love about
Smallest pair of
Doll's
scissors.
House.
They work as scissors.
Do they really?
Yeah. An ivory, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or bone, might be bone.
Oh.
But again.
And would someone have sat? This is all handmade, so they'd have a.
Well, it's factory made, but handmade.
Painting.
Yeah. In other words, in fairly small quantities. There's more in there.
Oh wow! Look at the detail of these.
What do you reckon, Jolie?
Oh, it's beautiful. I've never seen anything like
No,
it.
you
in my
were
life.
well, you hard put to
Even-
it to find it. We found this in a pub. There was a picture on the pub, so we photographed it because I looked at it and I said to my colleague, I said, that is just about the sort of room we want to make to show this furniture.
Yes,
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to
definitely.
make a room. Gordon, who was here earlier on, is wonderful with carpentry.
Yeah, he
Then I'll
says
do all the painting and the trimming and making the architraves and stuff going round it, and we'll create a room for it, light it nicely, you know,
I can see it. Yeah,
and
and just arrange the furniture in.
that,
Just
the nice
in a
long
larger
windows in a curve. It look lovely.
Now, something nowadays that's a little bit of a touchy subject is genders, and basically toys that are designed just for girls and just for boys. But historically this was taken to some extremes, and Jan here is going to explain a few things about some of the toys that are gender-based. Would that be a good way to put it?
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. When these toys were made, they were specifically designed as boys' toys and girls' toys. Now, at the time, toys like Meccano, which were very much the boys' toys, they were designed to teach boys skills that would be useful when they grow up. So parents wanted their children, their boys, to be engineers or mechanics or architects, and Meccano was the go-to toy for that.
A lot of industry back then. Motor industry, building aircraft, all sorts of factories, and so kind of growing up to fulfill those roles.
Yeah, exactly that. Meccano magazine was the go-to magazine at that time as well, because the articles that were inside it were of encyclopedic level. So parents saw it as an educational toy for boys. We are now, it stood in front of the toys that were made for girls. I'm sorry to put it this way, but the toys that we see in this cabinet here were designed to teach girls skills to run their own homes.
So future housewives.
Exactly that. Thank goodness times have changed. But one of the things, when you look at the toys in the museum, they are literally real life made miniature. And this cabinet really gives you examples for that, because all the things you see in here were designed to work.
So they're functional.
They're functional, exactly that. So you can see that there's little hand whisks there, there's mincers, of course there were real china sets, no plastic there,
Yeah.
real china sets, because you had to learn how to look after them and treat them properly so that they
So the
didn't break.
etiquette of the time as well, how to sit, how to drink,
Yeah.
the pinky,
All of that. All of that. If you look closely, look, the mangles, that works. The sewing machines had real needles and thread, and you had to learn how to thread them up properly for the sewing machine to work, which of course is what you have to do to use a real sewing machine. But the thing here that always surprises people is this stove right in the middle of the cabinet here.
Beautiful, yeah.
Well, it's made by a very collectible German manufacturer called Märklin, but when you look closely, it has a little spirit burner in it. So you could heat up that stove and boil water.
It actually cooks.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
astonishing, isn't it?
They get to see it's not just a toy, because you will learn, if you're not careful, you can burn yourself on it like a real oven.
Exactly.
Because it is a real oven.
It is.
Just small.
Yeah, exactly
Brilliant.
that. But the other interesting thing about the collection that we have in the museum, from the point of view of the social history, is that childhood was different.
Yes.
So whereas these days it's not cool for a lot of children to play with toys over about the age of 8 or 9, they want technology, this was different because childhood was different. Certainly for the wealthy families that own quite a few of the things that we have on display. So you wouldn't have necessarily given that to a little girl of 6 or 7, but it could have been a girl of about 12 or 13 who would actually enjoy using a range cooker like this.
Kind of longer childhood compared to today, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
in some
exactly
respects.
that. Yeah.
So, is there anything in this cabinet, apart from this one, that really catches your eye? I've got one in my head.
Oh, go on, tell me yours, Alex. I'm curious to hear.
The one that I love is the two washing machines, really. You got the Hoovermatic Twin Tub.
The Twin Tub, yes.
I've owned an actual one.
Yeah, me too.
Have you?
Yes.
And then the one at the back there, which is the top loader.
That's right.
I love those. So, these toys, would you actually put water in them and just
Yes,
put
you
like,
could do, yeah,
I don't know what,
absolutely.
handkerchiefs, little things like that?
Your Dolly's clothes.
Dolly's
That's
clothes,
what
there you
we're
go.
going. They're
Absolutely.
Dolly's clothes.
That makes sense. So how about yourself? Anything that really kind of catches your eye?
Well, I always go to
It is
that
that
one,
one.
really,
Fair
because people have often remember sewing machines with real needles,
Yes.
but there are not many people that that have
That is
memories
really,
of an actual cooker, a toy cooker that actually got hot.
There you go. Fascinating. Thank you so much. Very privileged to be in the central part of the museum. So if you come here as a visitor, you get to see this from the outside. And I've always wanted to come in here. So this is the O gauge railway, and some of these trains, pretty much all of them, are extremely rare, very valuable, and as far as I know, they all function as well.
We're looking at a collection of, this is O gauge, fantastic collection of manufactured models. They were all commercially made, so you could buy these, go to Gamages or one of the big London shops or elsewhere and buy one of these, but they were not cheap. It was nothing to be paying £10, £12 for one engine. It doesn't sound much, but in 1925 to 35 it was a tremendous lot of money. It's
Just for a model, yes.
Yeah, and equivalent to paying £2,000 odd for an engine. That's how you got to look at it, how
Yes.
they were. There's one engine I would like to point out because I suppose I have a personal interest in it, and it's this, it's Britannia. Right, this was created by Dennis Hefford, and we're talking around 1970, it's a long time ago now, and we used to make many models together, but I always painted them. So he made this locomotive and I painted it, and this goes for many, many lovely models that he made. And I joined in, and he did aircraft and all sorts of other stuff. We did architects' models. Incredible, clever guy. He died about 9 years ago, very sadly. He was pretty old, so we created a factory in his memory, which is there. We wanted to put something along that rather white wall, so I said, well, let's have a factory there. So we made that, The clock even works, and it's in his name. So Dennis Hefford, engineer. That's better than a gravestone.
That's really nice. That's very special.
And that's why.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
No, you're very welcome.
So feeling very lucky at the moment. Chris has been kind enough to actually put the Britannia on the track, and we're going to see it run. Chris, I could look at these trains all day, and there is so much in here to see. Every second I suddenly spot something new. But one train in particular that's caught my eye is this very elaborate one over here with the bulb at the front.
Yeah.
Could you tell me anything about that one?
That's right, that's a very interesting thing. That's Hornby. That's one of the first ever electric locomotives that Hornby made. You're going back to 1926. It's a Metropolitan Underground locomotive, and it's 110 volts, so they were looked on as quite dangerous actually. And you could plug that onto your track with a controller with a 60-watt lamp as a choke, and they were eventually banned by the government because they were considered too dangerous for kids. And there were cartoons in magazines of cats leaping off tracks, you know, and things like that.
That's brilliant.
Having electrocuted themselves on the rail. So that's what it is. It's a very early Hornby Metropolitan, and eventually they dropped the voltage down to 4 volts, then 6 volts, and eventually they wound up with 20 volts.
So that particular
one is a 110 volt one.
Blimey. So on this layout with many rare artefacts, there's one in particular you wanted to tell me about that's not a train, but something else.
Right, well what we have is a structure in front of us, which is a bridge. It's based, we think, on one of the Rhine bridges. It's made by Märklin, a very, very famous firm we've talked about before. Around 1924 they made this bridge, and it was in the catalogue. We think it was only available for possibly a year, but we don't know of another one. So it is incredibly rare, and there are a lot of Märklin collectors all over the world that would give their right arm to get that bridge. No, it's an absolute rarity.
And where did you find it?
Well, I found it from a local dealer. He had a model shop dealer in the Brighton area, and it arrived, I think it came, I don't know who brought it into his shop. I saw it on the floor of his shop, and it was in pieces because it's all dismantles. And I said, oh, I must have that. John, how much? Oh, it's not for sale. I'm not selling that. That'll be in my new shop as a windows display. I said, oh, come. And eventually, I went home and I bought a load of rubbish. I bought odd old engines and carriages and bits and pieces, because he was a dealer. He couldn't resist a deal. So I bought this bloody great case full of stuff, which I put in front of him. I said, here we are, John. I said, there are 2 engines or 3 engines here, and there's carriages, and there's some goods wagons, and there's this and that. All this, and £100 for your bridge. He said, go on, take the bloody bridge then. And that's how it happened.
And now it's here for everyone to enjoy.
Yes.
So this, what's this space here? Oh, that's a
kitchen.
like a canteen,
kitchen,
a kitchen, of course.
Yes, kitchen.
And then there's a, what's it? Is it a kind of first class?
Well, it's all first class. That's what they called a coupe compartment.
Coupe.
So you could book that little compartment. But look, it's even got mirrors in it. Have you noticed?
Oh, so it has.
Detailed.
That is just. This is the nice thing about O gauge. You can get that
Get the detail.
level of detail in there, can't you? Down to every last detail.
Oh, definitely.
See, I noticed a few of these trains. You're just saying the one up here. That's a train that used to come into Brighton. We've got Brighton Bell. Do you try to keep a lot of the display in keeping with the local area?
Well, let's put it this way. There's obviously a huge variety of trains, sort of from all over the country, but at the same time, it is nice to have plenty which emphasises the Brighton area.
Yes.
And this was originally the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway.
Right. Yes.
And then it became the Southern Railway. But the trains like this, the Brighton Bell, I even remember it when I first came here. I used to love seeing it coming into the station.
I bet.
In this beautiful sort of umber brown and cream. It's very, very nice. And yes, so the answer to your question is yes, I do like
that's
local
nice.
southern trains to be on this layout.
I think you've kind of captured the time really nicely, because as things change throughout time in out in the outside world, you're able to kind of have a little time warp in here.
Yeah,
where
it's like a bubble.
A little bubble where
Yeah.
you've captured the imagination of the time. It's
Yeah.
really nice. You've done an exceptionally good job.
This is another little model that Dennis Hefford made and I painted. It's incredibly elaborate.
I love the
paintwork.
these ones with the huge drive
Yeah,
wheels.
look at all this down here.
Stunning.
Very
Beautiful.
elaborate. But I had that running on Saturday. We had a running day.
Now that we've had a look at the O gauge trains, it's time to look at the double O gauge, which are smaller. This is the gauge that most people will remember for their entry to the world of model trains, me included. Now, when I've seen this layout, when I've been here at the museum just as a general member of the public, you see the trains going up and down quite often, things like the Flying Scotsman. And the gentleman, Peter, who operates and maintains this double O gauge layout, I asked him, would he be kind enough to bring down his Stephenson rocket, which is one of my absolute favourite locomotives, and he was very kind to do so. And I even now get to fulfil a dream which I had as a kid, to come to this layout with a Stephenson rocket and see it go around. Joining the Stephenson rocket is also the famous Titfield Thunderbolt, which is going around the track as well. So I've been told that this is the very first day they've even been out of the box. So very special indeed. When people say vintage toys, different things will come to mind. And I know, for example, my mum, when you say a vintage toy, she'll probably think of one of the most iconic, which is a teddy bear.
Yes.
And I noticed this cabinet here has got a lot of teddy bears, and I've been told, little Dickie Bird told me, there's a very special one in here.
Indeed. This is my daddy's old teddy bear that he had before the First World War in about 1911, I think, 12. And this is George. He's looking out at you. He doesn't know what to make of you yet, but he has seen your car, and I think he's impressed with that anyway. That's dear old George, and he's lived all through the family life. And when my dad was much older, he said, "You must have George in your museum. There's no point in him having in the old home there." And here he is, and he's much admired. He's a Steiff, and Steiff is one of the most famous teddy bear people. They made lots of soft toys, as they call them, including a great range of teddy bears, and he is what they call a ginger Steiff. He's a beauty.
Absolutely. Can I ask you, the teddy bear's picnic? Is there a story? This little stove here, I find that very interesting.
Well, that is a travelling stove, and believe it or not, people used to take things like that on journeys, early train journeys, and I believe even probably on horse-drawn coaches. They used to take little sets like that as picnic boxes, and they would cook and have tea in the little tin boxes there. You could put sandwiches in them. So that's the story behind
That's
that.
wonderful.
And we decided that I found that in a market many years ago, and I thought that would work so nicely with the teddy bears.
So you get a big surprise.
Teddy bears.
To the woods tonight.
Yeah, indeed.
Being in a museum, particularly one as niche as this, you've got to ask the question, what is the oldest artefact of all of the items in the collection? So, what is the oldest item in this?
slightly debatable, but we think this is probably the oldest stuff we have, which is this little group of furniture with a number 7 with it, the chairs, the little sofa. This is made by a firm called Evans and Cartwright, and it may go back to before 1800. It might go back to the late 1790s.
Really?
Evans and Cartwright had quite a long run, and they actually had child labour almost, although apparently the kids loved it. They were up in the Wolverhampton area, and it's all tin plate, painted, hand-painted tin plate.
You couldn't tell, could you? It's beautifully made.
Beautifully done, and it's extremely collectible. You don't find it, and people that collect old dollhouse furniture go a little bit mad for that stuff.
Well, I've never even thought about 18th century toys.
I know,
let alone 19th.
That is very, very old.
Wow.
It's lovely.
Amazing. I'd like to take this moment in the video to give a shout out to my very good friend Peter Bryant, who not only is responsible for the running of this 00 gauge layout, but is incredibly integral to this museum. But if it wasn't for Peter, this video wouldn't have happened, my car wouldn't have come down here. It was all his idea. So Peter, thank you for making all of this happen. This lovely little area here, we've got a huge variety of puppets. Is there anything in here of particular interest to you?
Well, there is so much. There are so many characters in here. This is a little haven of characters, and we've got Muffin the Mules, and we've got all sorts of Disney characters. And what also interests me, we've got the Wicked Witch over here in this cabinet, and all those characters. And then up above we got a thing I remember was as a child with these cut-out paper books with things like George and the Dragon and all these kind of things. And going over here we have a Disney display, which is Pelham puppets. Pelham puppets were the most famous of all puppets. They really were. And again, very, very collectible. But if you come through here, there are all these little theatres, and these theatres were terribly popular, because you could stage all sorts of either pantomimes or famous plays, all sorts, ballets and things on these theatres. They were made by Pollux, who were very famous for making theatres of all sorts. They were mainly made of wood and card.
But notice over here, it says place a 10p coin. Something actually...
Now this is another very interesting thing, which is a Disney display. This was a shop display, and it is Disney characters all there, but you need to put a 10p in the slot.
I actually have a 10p.
Ah, well, we are winning.
Shall we see what happens?
Yeah, why not? Oh.
Whoops.
Look at them.
Now Chris, I've been told by someone that you do some exceptionally good impressions of trains and train related things. Is this true?
Yes, it is. Since I was a very, very small boy, I learnt by immersing myself in the bathwater and putting my fingers in my ears that I could sound like a train. And as I love trains anyway, the thought of being able to produce a steam engine was a wonder for me. So I will give you now how I've developed that a bit. Here we are.
I look forward to this.
the way to Bournemouth.
Yeah, I like that is remarkable. How about, do you know Flying Scotsman's got a very distinctive sound?
Right, Flying Scotsman.
Is it triple cylinder?
There's 3-cylinder on the Flying Scotsman, A3 locomotives, classic LNER.
Right.
Here we go.
That was remarkable. Thank you. London Underground.
Yes, I really ought to have the echo thing on. Mind the rules.
Truly remarkable.
It needs honing a bit. I haven't done it for a while.
Chris, that was incredible. Wow, what a skill! And all learned in the bathtub.
Well, I started in the bathtub. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
But a little developed since.
Yes. Now Jolie here is a huge fan of model trains and things as well, and not just the trains, but I want to ask you, Jolie, what is your favourite thing in this museum that you've seen? Can you show us?
Yes. Well, there's a few, but I can't pick. But one which I love is this scene here, because if you're my height, you're quite low to the track, and the countryside and the way the board joins and you squint, it's almost like you're there. But this particular scene reminds me of when I used to last year get the train to Wales quite often, and you know, you can just lose yourself. You don't have to worry about traffic, you just sit there, enjoy the view and the detail. I mean, you probably can't see, but just look at the grains, the moss, look at these little fellas. And then round here, what I really love, it's a bit of a Doctor Who thing going on. Piggies, Daleks and phone box. Beautiful.
Jan, we have had an excellent day here at the museum. I can't thank you enough, and you're definitely the right person for the role. You're very enthusiastic, you know all about it, and honestly, again, I can't thank you enough.
Well, Alex, what can we say but a big thank you to you and your fabulous little car. We've had so much fun showing you around, and it's not every day that you see a real roadworthy car drive around a toy museum like this.
Absolutely. So come on down to the Brighton Toy Museum. My car is going to be here until mid to late September, and as you can see from this video, there is tons here. So thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you.
So my time here at the Toy Museum is coming to an end, and I've had such a wonderful day. And Chris, I'd like to thank you so much, not just for inviting us here, letting us see kind of behind the scenes, and allowing me to drive my car through your museum. But this museum is a wonderful testament to your enthusiasm, where you've kind of encaptured this wonderful image of the past for generations to enjoy, for futures to come. So thank you so much.
I thank you. That's fantastic. We've done something we have never done before, or even thought of doing before. To actually have a road vehicle drive around this museum is unthinkable. But it's lovely, and it's amusing, yet it's quirky, but it's miniature. So your car is so small, it is almost as though it's come out of one of the cabinets.
It seems like it's always been here.
And it belongs so well.
Yes.
And really nice to meet you two. And
thank you.
Fabulous. And,
It's been a pleasure.
and for me too.
Excellent. Come on down to the Brighton Toy Museum.